So with that, we'll get into our next session, which is our meditation session for today. Today we are going to take a very beautiful topic which is called as the Mahavakyas, which I introduced last week. And we are going to study what are the 4 Mahavakyas. We have studied one Mahavakya, and today we will study the second Mahavakya, and that is from Chandogya Upanishad. The 4 Mahavakyas. Mahavakyas, as I said, they are the statements of facts. They are statement of fact which are mentioned in a text which is called as Upanishad. The first one is called as Lakshana Vakya. I'm now giving you a short introduction to Mahavakyas, so that this gives you a feeling why we say consciousness is the reality. Because of these sentences which are there in the Upanishads. So in Tattvabodha and Atmabodha, we have just seen different texts, different verses which talk about Atma, which gives an introduction to Atma and Brahman, but they are all sourced out of Upanishads. There are four Vedas which I explained to you last week: the Rig Veda, the Sama Veda, the Atharvana Veda, then Yajur Veda. Veda means a source which reveals something which our sense organs cannot reveal. This is the definition of Veda. What the sense organs cannot reveal is revealed by Veda. Very beautiful definition. If we remember this definition, then we will never ask how come, what is the source of this knowledge of consciousness, that I am Brahman. What is the source? We will never ask, because there is no other source except this Veda. Last week we studied one Upanishad called as Aitareya Upanishad, one sentence which said Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam, as I said, is consciousness. Consciousness is Brahman. This is called as the definition of the eternal truth, which comes from the Rig Veda. It's a definition. When a student goes to a teacher, the teacher first tells him consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness is the reality in you and the entire universe. And then the next sentence which the Guru gives is Tat Tvam Asi. This is our subject matter for study today. That thou art, this comes from the Sama Veda. Sama Veda is generally sung. They are Upanishads in metrical form, in a form in which it can sing. And that's why it's called as Sama Veda. Chandogya Upanishad is one Upanishad which comes in this Veda. And in the 6th chapter, this word Tat Tvamasi comes 9 times. And what the teacher is trying to say here is Tat Tvam Asi. Tat means that consciousness, Tvam means you, Asi, are. That consciousness you are. So in the first one, it was Lakshana. It was a definition of consciousness, that consciousness is one and it is Brahman. Brahman means it's infinite. It is beyond time. It's beyond space. It's all pervading. The second one is called Upadesha Vakya. Upadesha means teaching. Teaching about that Brahman. What is that Brahman? Where is that Brahman? The teacher says, don't search anywhere here and there. It is you. It's you. The core of your personality is this consciousness. Then the third sentence is called as Anubhava Vakya. After hearing this definition and the teaching from the Guru, the student goes back to his own house, and then he contemplates on these two. And then he's in meditation, he understands that this self which the teacher was talking about is consciousness. Because in the meditation, what he realized is that everything else in the seat of meditation is only thoughts, nothing else. What does one experience in meditation? You sit down at any time, morning, afternoon, evening, close your eyes. What you experience is only two things. One is the consciousness principle, which is everywhere, which is all the time changeless. Whether you meditate in the morning, afternoon, evening, tomorrow, 10 years ago, after 5 years, consciousness is not changing. And the second factor in meditation is you have shut all the forms which are through the sense organs. The only thing which is there is the mind. And mind is only, the function of the mind is only throwing thoughts. So vrittis. So you're only seeing vrittis, that's all. At any time, that is all you experience, and then you can get absorbed in that consciousness, which is called as nirvikalpa samadhi, which is called as another state of the mind where the mind has become quiet. So this verse comes from the second mantra of Mandukya Upanishad. It says, I am Atma Brahma. Mandukya Upanishad is from Atharvana Veda. This self is Brahman. That is the meaning of the word, I am Atma Brahma. Then what happens? Then the student is so happy realizing that what the teacher taught was the truth. He had defined the truth for me. He had told me that I am that truth principle. I have realized that I am the truth principle in my meditation. And then he says, he goes back to the Guru and says, Aham Brahma Asmi. This in Sanskrit means I am Brahman. It comes in Yajur Veda, which is the fourth Veda, and it is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, very, very beautiful Upanishad, which is very bulky, and it takes maybe 4 or 5 years to study that Upanishad, because it's got so many mantras and so many debates in the mantras itself. So generally people don't study this Upanishad in a big way, we just take portions of it. So this is called as Anusandhana Vakya. Anusandhana Vakya means it is a confirmation coming out of conviction that one is Brahman. The student's confirmation, conviction, this remains permanent because knowledge is something which never changes. Once you have thought about something and it remains in your memory, it is always there in your subconscious mind. So a student finally realizes that he is that ultimate truth which the scriptures have described, which is called as Anusandhana Vakya. We will be doing the third and the fourth in the following weeks. Third one will be next week. The following week we'll be doing the Anusandhana Vakyam. That is, Aham Brahmasmi will come after that. Today for our study is this Tattvamasi, the second one. I'm just giving you glimpses of these so that you know the background in which Atmabodha text has been written. And the background is the Upanishads. And whatever we study in Drigdrishya Viveka is also coming from these Upanishads. And the 4 Mahavakyas are the core of the entire Upanishads. Core, absolutely the central message of the Upanishad is these 4 Mahavakyams. Chandogya Upanishad, it consists of 8 chapters. I'll tell you in brief in about 5 minutes, a very short description of the Upanishad. And in this Upanishad, a 12-year-old boy named Swetaketu was sent by his father at the age of 12 to study scriptures. He came back at the age of 24, met his father, and then the father asked him, have you come to know from your teacher what is that which is unheard but it becomes heard? What is unthought, it becomes thought, and what is unknown, it becomes known. See, this is the way the father is asking his son. The gist of the question is, do you know Brahman? That's all. He wanted to know that, but he puts in an indirect way, just to check his son, whether he has picked up that knowledge. The son was very boastful and he was very egoistic. He said, no, I don't know what you are asking me, but I think my teacher never knew this. So he puts the blame on the teacher. He says, my teacher didn't know this, perhaps he didn't know it, therefore he didn't teach me that. Then he says, he was noble enough, he was courteous enough to ask his father. He says, oh father, can you teach me what you are asking me? Can you give me an answer for that? So to that question of the son, the father teaches him Tattvamasi knowledge. And he says, just like all the pots, if you come to know clay, you will know all pots. If you come to know all the nail cutters and other instruments which are made of iron, if you know iron, you will know all the products born of iron. If you know one gold, you will know all ornaments, ring, bangle, chain, everything. You will know. It's all one gold. So the cause is one, products are, effects are many. The cause of the whole universe is pure consciousness, and the effect, which is all the objects and beings in the universe, are many. These are products. These are name and form, but the essence behind them is the Sat principle, which is the existence principle. And then the student asks, how did this beings come from non-being, which you say is Sat? Then the father teaches him that non-being is not non-being, it is Sat, which is actually pure being. Sat means pure consciousness, pure being, pure awareness. Pure awareness is nothing else but the pure cosmic being. And then he gives the whole process by which the entire creation comes out of eggs, out of living beings, out of sprouts, all the trees come, out of living beings, all the other beings come, out of the eggs, there are other forms of living beings which come, out of moisture, there are other beings come, but they are all born from one Sat principle. And then in the same chapter, this chapter consists of 16 sections, very beautiful 16 sections. And then the teacher, Uddalaka Aruni, gives 9 examples. I will just give you 2 or 3 of them in a short time so that you can understand the gist of it. For example, he says, like in a seed, you do not see the entire banyan tree, but from the seed, the whole banyan tree is manifest. Similarly, from the ocean itself, the waters, they rise, they get evaporated. They again, after some time, they fall as rain, and then it becomes rivers. In the rivers, there are names and forms, but once it reaches the ocean, there is no name and form, it's one. Like a bee which takes the juice from different flowers and makes the juice. In the juice, there is no, you can't say that this portion is from this particular flower, but it all becomes one. So similarly, what Aruni says is there is one principle which is called as Sat principle, Sat Chit Ananda, which is the entire substratum for this whole universe. That is the core of the personality. That is the core for all of us. In our meditation, we will reach that core. Once you reach that core, it will appear like blankness. What you should tell yourself is this is not blankness, this is Sat. This is pure consciousness, in which there is no Sajatiya Bheda, Vijatiya Bheda, Swagata Bheda. We have just seen the three differences are not there in Brahman. So what ensouls the whole universe is the self in man. Tat Tvam Asi. That one consciousness is my core. It is the core of yours. It is the core of everybody in the universe. On realizing this core as our own self, we get liberated from our minds. We get rid of our sorrows in life and achieve peace, security, happiness, which is the goal of all of us. So with that, we will try to meditate on this truth one principle. Let's close our eyes. We observe the breath at the tip of the nose. This body is breathing by itself. Without my will. The prana, the vital air, keeps this body physiologically alive. During the waking state, my mind is fully active. Like the bird which leaves its nest in the morning, in search of food, it eats the different fruits and comes back to the nest in the evening. My mind goes out into the world, experiences joy and sorrow, resolves into the prana when it goes to sleep. I see a division, duality. When the mind is awake. When the mind goes to sleep, I have the experience of Advaitam. I am pure awareness, formless. I experience no difference in my real nature. I am pure. I can exist without the body and mind. I, the consciousness, am not affected by time. Sat, existence. Chit, consciousness. Ananda, bliss. Is my nature. With the body or without the body. With the I notion or without the I notion. I am immortal. Changeless. Invisible. Pure. Awareness principle. Asato Ma Sádgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gently become aware of the body and open your eyes. So for next week, please revise this text if you can. Just read the verses and the meanings if possible. If you have any questions, you can send me a WhatsApp message before the class. I can answer them during the class before we close this text for our study. And then, if time is there, we will start the next text, which is called as Drik Drishya Viveka, the seer seen discrimination. This is another text which is a good text to know. Initially, this is an introductory text, Prakarana Grantha. So we'll do that text. It's a short text, about 44 verses or so. I think we will probably take about 8 or 10 sessions or around that. There are 3 parts to that text. I will explain to you next week when we start that. And let's see how it goes after that. I'll open up the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions, you can let me see if there's anything on the chat box. You will be allowed to unmute yourself if you want to. And
Shekharji, this is Lakshmi.
Yeah, but
I have a question. One of the points you mentioned was costless cause. Will you be able to explain that?
Yeah. Sorry, I went out of this. Let me try to go back to the chat. I'll go back to the chat session just a minute. Yeah, share the screen on the chat. But you continue.
My question was, can you please explain the idea behind costless cause?
Causeless cause. Yes, very good question. See, whenever we see in the world, we see there is a cause and effect in this world. That means there's, you look at the world outside, for everything, you'll find a cause. That means a son is born from the father, animals, they come from their parents. Then whatever you see, for example, the 5 elements are the cause for the entire universe. Then we go back and say, okay, for the 5 elements in Tattvabodha, we realize there is a cause. The gross elements came from the subtle elements. The subtle elements came from Maya, Prakriti. So Maya came from where? That Maya means 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Or when you look at the whole universe, I have gone back from the world up to Prakriti, which is the primordial matter principle. Now this matter principle has risen from Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda means Brahman. Sat Chit Ananda means the same thing, means Atma also. The core in my personality and the core in the entire universe is, in my personality, when I call it as Atma. Looking at from the whole world, the core personality is Brahman. Then it's just a name. But the name is given to awareness consciousness principle. In the scriptures, they say that this awareness principle is the causeless cause. That means the Lord, Bhagwan, or whatever you may call, this is described as Satchidananda in philosophy, in scriptures. But it does not have another cause, because then we will get into regression infinitum. There will be a problem. Therefore, to avoid the problem of regression infinitum, we say this is causeless cause. There is no cause. It is the ultimate cause of this entire universe. Does it make sense, Bud?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the chat. Surinder Goel, he's just joined us recently. Abhilash has come in today. He just came in the nick of the time. He's asking a question. A movie which is called as BMI or Maya is playing on the screen of awareness. Yes, you are right. The screen is called as the consciousness awareness principle. And the movie is called as body, mind, and intellect, which consists of 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Primarily, we should understand our mind is called as Maya. And mind is all the time, the mind is throwing thoughts after thoughts after thoughts. For every one of us, all of us, these thoughts have got a rhythm in it. It's got a law. And that law is called as the law of karma. And it is these thoughts which together ultimately is called as the Maya principle, which consists of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Rajas stands for the action. That means you have Rajasic thoughts, which means you want to act throughout the life. It consists of Sattvic thoughts. That means you are interested to know more about the world. Or it may have Tamasic thoughts, which is I want to sleep now. I am tired of watching watching the movie outside the world. The 5 sense organs are tired. The mind says, let's go to sleep. So this is the power of Maya, which is happening to all of us. When collectively we say all our minds put together, it is known as Maya. It is a Shakti which belongs to the consciousness principle. It is a Shakti. It is a power. It's a projecting power of that consciousness principle, and together, when it happens for the whole universe, it is called as Maya. Verse number 57 talks about multiplicity of changing colors and forms in the movie, and all this is superimposed on the screen, Brahman. Yes, you're right. And this consciousness principle is divine. This is still the mind attributing the quality to Brahman. Okay. What you should understand is mind is also called as upadhi. Upadhi and upahitam. There are two words in Sanskrit which we use. Like we have a clear crystal. I will explain to you how it happens in our mind. You take an example of a clear crystal and a red colored flower. The red colored flower is standing for our mind. The pure crystal stands for the consciousness principle. This you can even meditate and you can realize this oneness of consciousness. So what happens is the mind is in proximity to the consciousness. When the mind is in proximity and the mind is throwing all the thoughts of either rajas or tamas or sattva or any emotions, what consciousness does is it superimposes the mind's attribute and the mind itself, which is a material. It superimposes on this consciousness. The jiva is nothing else but this pure consciousness which is enclosed in the mind, body-mind complex. That pure consciousness, which is actually pure, it has the ignorance about itself. So it takes the attributes of the mind and it says, I am sorrowful, I am tired. Actually, the mind is tired. Mind is like a upadhi, is like the red flower. But it takes the consciousness, the pure being in this body, takes that mind as itself. This you can see it in meditation. The second thing is, when you're not in meditation, you come out of meditation, in the waking state, what happens is the body is tired. The body is painful. The body has got a wound. Body is suffering. It has got diabetes, it's got this disease, that disease. Body. The body is made up of 5 elements. But I, the pure consciousness, associate myself with the body. What the scriptures are teaching us is, don't associate yourself with the body, keep a distance with the body, keep a distance with the mind. And also with the impressions in the mind which are there in the Karana Sharira, which is the Punya Papam. The Punya Papam is responsible for the thoughts in the mind. So all this is called as Anatma, but the body, the consciousness is Nirgunam, Nirakara. Nirakara means there is no form, formless. Nirguna means there is no gunas of the mind in it. Therefore, claiming this consciousness as myself, as the substratum, free from the upadhi, which is the mind and its attributes, is the teaching of the Upanishads. This discrimination between the mind, attributes, and the consciousness is beautifully explained in another text called as Vichara Sagara. It's a very deep science, but our rishis have explained it. I will be taking that text on the Wednesday classes, maybe in about 5 weeks' time, 5 to 6 weeks. So you have been added into that group. So you will probably get a extension of this discussion there when we discuss that. Ramesh, so does it answer you, Abhilash? Okay. The next one is Ramesh. The white screen on the movie is being projected upon no color. Yes, you're right, Ramesh. In your remark here, the consciousness is the pure screen on which the whole world is projected. Atma Ananda is unlike the mind. Brahman is the passive witness. So isn't this happiness still a subtle reflection in mind? Hence, attributing Ananda in itself is not happy or sad. No. You see, I think we must keep the mind completely different than ourselves. The problem we get confused is when we confuse the reflected happiness and my own happiness. Leave the reflected happiness in the subtle mind itself and drop it. Therefore, self, as you have said, is itself not happy or sad. It is the mind which is happy or sad. But then why do you say self is bliss then? This is only because the scriptures define Brahman as one in which there is nothing else. That condition of Brahman is called as bliss, in which there is no other objects, Brahman alone is. That is a knowledge which comes from the scriptures, and the bliss aspect is coming from Taittiriya Upanishad, which says that there is Ananda in that Brahman, in that state in which I am there, in which the whole world is not there, body is not there, the mind is not there. Deepak is saying Sachidananda, eternal bliss, since it is not subject to duality, it does not experience limitation of Ananda, which we all experience in our limited self. Yes, Deepak, your understanding is clear. Sachidananda is only knowledge. It is not an experience. All experiences are born out of the contact of the world with the mind, or as a reflection of the Atma with the mind. That is called as experience. When there is no medium operating, but I still am happy, as we all are in our sleep state. In our sleep state also there is a Priya Moda Pramoda Vritti is there. But when we have the knowledge that pure consciousness is my nature and it is bliss, if this knowledge is there, this is a different type of bliss, because in this bliss there is no in this bliss there is no ignorance. That makes this Ananda very, very different. I know I am that pure consciousness. That's all. There is no ignorance there. That ignorance which is there in an Ajnani reduces the Ananda bliss of which belongs to the Atma. It reduces it completely because he is not aware. But with this knowledge of Atma, as we learn more and more, this factor will come. You will understand, and we will realize this bliss in ourselves much more than what we are talking today. From a realized state, even if there is no experience, I am. Okay, I think this is a conversation going on between Abhilash and Deepak ji. Okay, that's fine.
Can we say unfettered Pramoda?
Yeah.
Satchitananda.
Yes.
Unfettered Pramoda. I mean,
unfettered Pramoda.
I mean, this happiness that you get is
yes.
completely unfettered. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Yes.
That's the kind of happiness you get.
Yes, absolutely.
Joy is 100 times, 1,000 times, billion times.
1,000 times, yes. You see, in Taittiriya Upanishad, it says that the joy which in Taittiriya Upanishad, they compare the lokas, the different 7 lokas which are there in the higher lokas. Each of the lokas, Prajapati Ananda, then they say Deva Loka Ananda, Pitru Ananda, all the Ananda which is experienced, the bliss which is experienced, joy which is experienced by all human beings, who are maybe they are in the Devata, who are also Devatas. For example, Agni Devata, Vayu Devata, they also have joy. Their joy is much more intense than the joy of the the celestial beings, their joy is 1,000 times much more better than the joy of the human beings. And the joy of the human beings is far more than the joy of the plants or the animals, because they have reflected Ananda in a different way. So, to come to a conclusion, Ananda, which is born out of our own knowledge about ourselves, without the ignorance, that Ananda, there is a word which is called as, used by Taittiriya Upanishad, which is bliss. All other Ananda is driven by the vritti, is only reflection of the thoughts. When there are not many agitations in our mind, then the reflection of the consciousness in the mind gives us joy. And it varies according to conditions of the mind. That is why it is called as conditional Ananda of the conditions of the mind versus the unconditional Ananda of Atma. Okay, I think these questions which are there in the chat, I have answered. If there are any more questions by anybody, you can ask them now.
Sekhaji.
Bolo Bhai.
This, we have the three gunas, right? Swastik
Yes.
and Tamasic and this one, Rajasic, right?
Yes.
So, what we are aiming for is the Rajasic, right, guna?
Sattvic.
No.
Sattvic.
Yes. We are aiming for Sattvic Guna.
Sattvic guna.
Yeah. But what I understand is we can't stick to the Sattvic guna permanently, right? We can be overcome by Maya and we fall to the Rajasic.
Correct. Yes, you are absolutely right. See, this Sattva, it does not remain with us all the time. It comes for a moment and then it goes away. Because the Maya in our mind, it is a continuous factor. Suddenly we become Rajasic. I am sitting down to talk about. I'm listening to something. I'm reading. I'm having the knowledge of something, and suddenly what happens is I become Rajasic. I'm enjoying Sattvic joy, but suddenly I become Rajasic. This is the condition of our minds. So a person who is more knowledgeable about Atma, he will come to know his mind very, very well. He will know, or she will know, that my mind is now Rajasic, my mind is Sattvic, and my mind is Tamasic. This is the best benefit, like I always say, of studying the scriptures. And all of us, many of people who are doing this text with me for the last 4 months are come back and told me that they have enjoyed and they have seen their minds in operation. Most of the people who have been listening in the last Atma Bodha and as well as Tattva Bodha have called me personally to say, I have become aware of my mind. So, Baba, you are right that this state does not last for too long, but we become aware of it.
Then what's the point of aiming to become a Sattvic person, right?
No, you see, the aim is not to become Sattvic person. The aim is to know the knowledge of Atma, not to become Sattvic. Sattvic is only one of the steps in the ladder.
But an important step.
Yeah, it's an important step, but you see, Sattva is also one of the conditions of the mind. So I'm not interested in the condition of the mind. I am trying to understand what is that which is making this mind known. I want to know the knowing factor. That is called as pure consciousness. So my object in life is not to keep looking at my mind and say, now it is Sattvic. No, that's not the objective. The objective is ask your mind, who is aware of this mind? Who is aware of this conditional mind? That will give you the knowledge. That knowledge will give you the real joy. Because that knowledge is a permanent knowledge. You can recall that knowledge at any time in future. Once you have that knowledge, what happens is you can recall, like your telephone number, like your name. Anybody asks you after 5 years, you will say, oh, my name is Bhavbhai. My telephone number is so and so. Similarly, you will say, I am Atma. I am pure awareness. That's all. This is what scriptures are teaching us. And once we have this knowledge, then life becomes easy.
That's why I was wondering, then why the three gunas coming in? If we have no control of one another, then no point putting our time on the three gunas.
Correct. Yes, you're right. So now you're clear?
Yeah, thanks.
But Shekharji, the gunas, the sattvic guna, stabilizes the mind and stills the mind, and for you to understand and go beyond.
Yes, correct. That's right.
It makes state will not be able to even go. So you have to have a sattvic mind, which means that is through practice, through purity, through meditation, through prayers, and all those qualifications.
Yeah, Deepak, you're right. That we need to cross over the sattvic mind, but even to have the sattvic mind, see, all of us, we have the sattva in us. It's not that we don't have. Only thing, it doesn't last too long. See, all of us in the morning, as soon as we get up, there is a sattva guna. We feel, yes, I'm bright. I know my sense organs are bright. They are very clear. And every day we experience this. But when we go up to the Atma level, it is a different type of living.
We are caught up in Maya then.
Yes, we are caught up in Maya in the other one, whereas with knowledge, then we are not affected by Maya anymore. When Rajas comes, Tamas comes, I am aware. This is the knowledge which helps us a lot in life.
Shekharji, we in meditation do not talk much about breath.
Breath is only a stepping stone. It is only just, okay, I'm just observing breath because that mind is related to breath. Mind also resolves in the breath. So once the mind resolves in the breath, and then I am pure awareness, that's all. But I am not able to remain in that state for too long because of Maya.
That's a problem.
What I'm saying is that our meditation is largely based on the process of negation.
Yes.
So that it sort of takes me to a point where I sort of understand that all that is not there. But is that possible through negation only, or is it also that through the breath? Because between the one and the second breath, there is this nanosecond of gaps. And it is within this gap that you find the Satchitananda.
No. Don't get too much involved in the breath, because breath is inert. It's an inert principle. Consciousness is my real nature. So don't get involved too much with the breath. Breath is just one small step in realizing my own self. After you have seen the breath, and that's all. After that, you move on and say that I am consciousness. Either you say neti neti, if the mind is troubling you, you can say neti neti. But if the mind is not troubling you, you just say I am Brahman, that's all, I am pure awareness. But that vritti is important to bring. Prajnanam Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. That Brahmakara vritti is very important, because that is the one which manifests me, my real nature.
Vrittis would mean basically?
Vritti means a thought. I must.
Vritti is thought.
Vritti is a thought. I must deliberately say, Aham Brahma Asmi. You can say in any language. You can say in Bengali, you can say in Tamil, you can say in Hindi, you can say in Sanskrit, you can say in English, you can say in Mandarin, any language. I am that awareness principle, is that thought must come, and once you bring that thought, it is what goes in deep into the subconscious mind. And once it reaches the subconscious mind, our job is done. Then we become nishtha, we become firm in knowledge. We become sthira prajna. that consciousness, awareness principle becomes sthiram, becomes unmoving. It doesn't waver anymore. That consciousness principle remains steady, and that is what is the aim of all of us.
I am Brahmasmi.
Yes, aham brahmasmi. You say that in any language. It can be in Hindi, it can be in Mandarin, it can be in Arabic, or it can be in Chinese, it can be Japanese, Portuguese, anything. But we must bring that thought, because the thought, the scriptures are very clear. In the next Drigdrishya Viveka, there is a portion in which we will be studying 6 types of meditations. So there I will explain to you a little bit more, but as of now, Deepak, let's just accept that we need to bring a thought, make the mind as sattvic as possible, as much as possible, but don't focus on that too much.
The butter and the milk analogy is indicating of that, what really is the significance of that analogy.
Yes, the significance is the difference between consciousness and thought. The consciousness is in all the thoughts. It is pervading all the thoughts, like the milk and the butter. Butter is always there in all the milk, pervades all the milk.
The butter is the consciousness.
Butter is the consciousness. It pervades milk. But no, the butter is the thought. Butter is a thought. So you can, in the milk, you can see butter. In the consciousness, you can see thoughts.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yes, Shekharji, this is Uma here. Can I ask you on some terms?
Yeah, go ahead. Uma, go ahead.
Okay, last Saturday you were saying that when a person dies and
Yes.
the body becomes inert,
Yes,
but consciousness is still in the body.
correct.
Okay, what leaves the body? Is it the Jivatma?
Yeah, it is the Jivatma which leaves. And what leaves the body is called as is the Sukshma Shariram. So I will explain to you the Sukshma Shariram. Basically, in simple terms, it means the mind has left the body.
Okay, and mind itself is inert.
Mind is inert, but it has got the reflected consciousness from the original consciousness.
So it is this reflected consciousness that gives it the power to take up another body. Can I say that?
That's correct. It is the reflected, there is another factor. See, what happens is when the creation starts, at that time, the consciousness, the creator, his reflected consciousness comes in the mind of the jiva. The minds are also existing at the time of creation. So, right from the time, from birth to birth, the reflected consciousness along with the mind, is traveling from one body to another body, another body, another body.
I see, okay.
And the reflected consciousness and the mind is not only for this body, it is there for all, it is there for every body which it takes.
Okay.
So that is
Shekharji, basically what we are saying is the subtle body transmigrates along with the impressions and vasanas, right?
Yes. The subtle body consisting of 17 organs, that means all these indriyas, that means the power behind all the sense organs. Yes. That is why, in the Chandogya Upanishad, what in the Chandogya Upanishad, which I was referring today, it says what happens at death. So at death, the first thing which the Upanishad says is the speech, it merges with the mind. Then the mind merges with the prana. The prana merges with the fire principle. And the fire principle leaves. When the fire principle leaves, then the body is called as it is ready for cremation.
So Shekharji, there is this there is this huge misconception, and I realized that after studying that this very subtle difference. People normally say कि भाई आत्मा निकल गई है body
that is
से.
wrong misconception.
And in Western terms we use the word soul has gone.
Yes.
But actually neither Atma, as we perceive, Brahman doesn't. It's essentially the subtle body that leaves.
Exactly.
It is the objective. It is again this body of the external, the actual consciousness. So what happens to the consciousness? So that's a conscious. So the subtle body with consciousness leaves and transmigrate with the 17 organs, with the impressions, etc. That sort of gives shape to another body-mind identification at a point of time in the future. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're right. So this is what is explained, Uma, also in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, if you want, I will let you know which verse it is from the Gita next time, if you just write to me. It says in the Bhagavad Gita also that the basic thing is the reflected consciousness plus the mind, along with the powers of the sense organs, they all leave straight away, and then as soon as it leaves, Lord, if it is body is cremated, at the time the fire devata gives that jiva a new body. But that jiva, it takes that body, the new body, but it takes a few years for that body to materialize till it comes to the gross body of a human being.
Oh, okay. But it can be an animal also, right?
It can be anything. It can be according to the karma. According to the karma, it has to enjoy. Suppose it has to enjoy certain specific karmas, as it has got some karma phalams in the future which can be enjoyed only in an animal body, it will take the animal body. But after taking the animal body, it has already fructified, then again it is ready for a human body. But generally what they say is a rare, if you have taken a human body, 95% of the time, you will take another human body. Again,
and Shekharji, will I carry forward all this knowledge that I'm getting from the Vedas now?
Yes. That is again said in the scriptures. It says that wherever you have stopped in the scriptural knowledge, you will start from the same point in the next birth.
Excellent. That's really was my question.
Yeah, that journey is very clear. I mean, see, the Vedas are very, very clear in all this, especially birth, death, soul, leaving, coming, and they are very clear. They say very clearly that in some jivas, like Ramana Maharishi, he didn't even have a guru, but then he had a guru in the previous birth. In this birth, he came, he realized some things which he had missed, and then he wrote 40 verses called Sat Darshanam, which is talking about exactly how a jiva realizes his nature. Very beautiful. I'm going to do this 40 verses for the Wednesday class in about, like I said, maybe 4 weeks' time.
Excellent.
You see, and he says in those 40 verses, very simple step he gives. He says, if you can drop your ego I, you are already with Sat, you are already with Lord. Finished. That is a simple message out of 40 verses, which was originally written in Tamil by Ramana Maharishi. And the central message there is, just drop your ego I and realize you are Atma. A very beautiful text. See if you can attend that. If you're not, you can just take the videos and see it anytime. But just to come back to your question, the knowledge does not go anywhere. You start again next birth where you stopped. Suppose you stopped in some meditation you didn't do, or some text you have not studied, some aspects of Atma you have missed out. You start from that point.
Okay. Because thank you very much, Shekharji.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Yes, I think there's what we are still wanting to understand, that the subtle body still needs consciousness. Even reflective consciousness needs consciousness. The subject-object principle of subtle body still exists when it migrates. When the body leaves with the 17 organs and the impressions and all of that, and migrates into another body at a point of time, that it is not separate from consciousness. Even though the subtle body is the matter, it's an object, it's still an object. But for this object to move, it still moves in consciousness. I'm just trying to understand. I'm not very clear on this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Vijaya has been explaining in the chat box.
Yeah.
Is Vijaya there? But I just want to understand.
Yes, Deepak. Yes, Deepak.
Yeah.
See, I am of the impression the subtle body is also matter, and the consciousness would never go anywhere. Consciousness is there. It's just the reflecting medium goes, so it does not get reflected. So the achetana is what goes away from the body, and when it takes the other body, that is it starts to reflect. But otherwise, I don't think consciousness goes anywhere. It's just there. It's like Ghatakasha Mahakasha concept, if I'm not mistaken, Shikharji.
Yeah. You see, that Ghatakasha Mahakasha comes in if you have the knowledge that I am that consciousness. I'm enclosed in this mind, and the same consciousness can be there without the mind. If that knowledge comes in, you are realized you are Jivan Mukta tomorrow. No need to wait. That's all. I am the pure consciousness. Ghatakasha has realized I am Mahakasha. There is no difference between this consciousness in this body and the whole consciousness in this universe. If you have realized that, you are a Jivan Mukta today. Now. That's all. Ghatakasha means it is the Akasha, the space which is enclosed in a pot. And Mahakasha means the space which is total space.
Yeah, which is the same spaces, and that space, there's no difference.
There is no space. There is no difference between. Space. Yes. Yeah. So when the body dies, I know even today I am saying I am not the body. I am the consciousness in the body. But this consciousness in the body is the same as consciousness everywhere. I am that awareness principle. If I realize it today and I can maintain that knowledge throughout my life, throughout my day, and remember that whenever I'm in trouble. Suppose I'm drowned with some sad thoughts. If that knowledge helps me at that time, then I get the benefit of the knowledge. So this making this knowledge firm is what is called as nishtha. And this comes only by constantly saying Aham Brahma Asmi. This remembrance of that knowledge in meditation, you see, you did not sit especially for this in meditation while you're sitting in a chair and a table and writing something, in between a few seconds you can just say Aham Brahma Asmi. That's all. I am that awareness principle. So once this happens, then there is no fear of death. Even when a body is sick, you say, okay, body is sick, okay, but I am not sick. That fear goes away. It's a guarantee given by the scriptures. This is yeah.
Shekhar, actually, basically, I was trying to understand a very different perspective. Actually, this Deepak gets dissolved at the end of this limited body, gets dissolved, identified as Deepak. There is a subtle body that moves into another mind body and identifies itself in a different way, and has no recollection of Deepak or the many other identified such bodies of the past.
See, don't go so far. Just take your own example in sleep. Tonight when you sleep, name and form Deepak is gone. Don't go up to the level of subtle body and all those things. The name and form goes away. I am myself. I am Atma. That's all.
So therefore, okay, fine. I understand. Therefore, the consciousness remains in subtle body all the time. Can I say that? The subtle body without consciousness does not exist.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Deepak, I'm telling you, this your question is a deep question. It is analyzed very beautifully in another text called Vichara Sagara in chapter 4.
We will.
You will see this intense discussion on this.
Okay, we'll wait for that.
Yes, there is a debate. The debate is consciousness enclosed in the mind, or is consciousness reflected in the mind? This debate is there, and the author answers the debate. There are positive and negative points for both. But I'm just giving you a gist that ultimately, many authors, many teachers, they accept the reflected consciousness rather than enclosed consciousness. Like what Vijaya was saying, there is a debate in that textbook. Is it enclosed consciousness or is it reflected consciousness? The final answer given by the Nishala Dasa in that text is, many authors like Sureshwaracharya and they all accept reflected consciousness to explain that what leaves the body and travels is the reflected consciousness, but not original consciousness.
Oh, it's not original consciousness.
Not at all.
So what happens to the original consciousness, sir?
It always is. It always exists by itself, without the body, without the reflections, without the Sukshma Sharira, without the world.
Okay, I've understood. So what you're saying is that this is a sideshow that is happening in a perpetual cycle.
Yes. Till it realizes that it is a sideshow. It is not. I'm not a part of the sideshow. I am the original. Finish. The reflection has merged with the original face.
But the point is, okay, I will discuss this again, because the point is that when you take the next birth, you again are appearing in consciousness.
Yes, but your reflection has not left the body. Your reflection has not left the subtle body. That is why you're taking birth.
So Shekharji, is it because of the prarabdha karma?
Yes, it is because of prarabdha karma. You're right.
So until the prarabdha karma gets evaporated, we will keep taking the rebirth.
Yes, we will keep taking rebirth. There is a way to come out of this prarabdha karma, that is Atma Jnana. This whole cycle of whole creation, ultimately what the scriptures tell is, know that I am that pure consciousness, which is the cause of this entire creation to come, exist and goes. This knowledge will burn all the prarabdha karmas. It will burn the ignorance, mula avidya. Once it burns the mula avidya, there is nothing left. It is pure consciousness alone which exists.
So this is even possible. Say, I think you talked about this Jivan Mukta, right?
Yes.
And so if say, for example, I know that I am all pervading. I know that I am the consciousness, but I'm still stuck in this body.
Yes, right? That is because of prarabdha.
Right. So on one side of the coin, I'm a consciousness. I'm aware of the consciousness. I realize that I am myself, but this is not consciousness. This is the body which is reflecting on the consciousness.
Exactly.
So in the case of, say, for example, you took an example of Ravana Maharshi, right?
Yes.
So he has been realized, so-called from the terminology, so realized soul.
Yes.
But he still had to take the body, and then he had to go through all the miseries of this, body in his life cycle. So
yes.
Is it all because of the prarabdha karma, though he was aware of he being the consciousness?
Absolutely. He was totally aware that my body is existing, my body is suffering. He was telling the doctors, you can operate me, no problem. Without anything, without any anesthesia, he said, okay, please operate. He was so clear. I am pure consciousness. Of course, you and I cannot be like that. But in his case, that's what people say.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, this is a very, very subtle topic of birth, death. Once we come into this, it's a complete Maya. So, it is a never-ending discussion, but we need to discuss it so that our own thoughts become clearer and clearer. And as we study more and more, we hope one day we are all saying, I am that pure consciousness.
Mr. Shekhar,
Yes.
one more question, not a question. Is there how does Shankaracharya, and we can discuss this or I can read separately, how does Shankaracharya refutes Ramanujam's point of view that I am, God and I are one, I am part of it, but I am not God.
Yes, this is explained in Brahma Sutra. If you study the Brahma Sutras, there are certain sutras which are giving this particular topic about how he defeats, especially in chapter 2 of Brahma Sutras, you will find all the philosophers are one by one taken up by Shankaracharya, and he refutes each one of them. It's through logic, by debates.
But Brahma Sutra was not written by Shankaracharya.
No, it was written by Vyasa. And it was by Vyasa, and it was yes, but it was commented by
of Brahma Sutra by Shankaracharya is worth reading, you're saying.
Yes, second chapter of Brahma Sutra of Bhashyam, worth reading if you are interested to know about different philosophies.
Yeah,
you might find some notes of mine in the Brahma Sutra in the website. If you want to go through it, you come in.
I'll go through it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And good night to everybody. It's already 8:15. We had a very long discussion. Thank you. Good night.